Whis has been using Super Buu as a way to train Goku and Vegeta, but Buu isn't really interested in training, at least not until Frieza attacked Earth. Him and the other Z fighters teamed up, with nearly the entirety of the Frieza force being turned into chocolate. But Super Buu quickly realized that his abilities may not be enough to handle Frieza, especially after he turned him into chocolate and he just attacked back. Gohan and the other Z fighters told Buu to absorb them, that way they may stand a chance. Super Buu really showed Frieza why he was one of two people King Cold warned to never fight. Until finally Goku and Vegeta arrived, taking down Frieza. But the Emperor was going to try and destroy the world, but Super Buu saw that coming and turned him into chocolate at the last second. But sadly, he didn't get to eat it, because Vegeta blasted him into smithereens. Super Buu released the other fighters, but Goku and Vegeta realized just how powerful Super Buu could get if he just took himself a little more seriously, and so they continue bugging him to help them with training. And it's a good thing, because they're going to need him as the Universe 6 tournament begins. I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and be sure to share with friends who like Dragon Ball. Let's continue with a what-if scenario. Buu has been more consistent about going to Beerus Planet. Beerus likes to use him for his food-making abilities. Even so, he still hasn't forgiven him for the pudding incident, but at least he respected him as a warrior. Buu would always end up getting kicked out after getting upset and threatening to turn Beerus into candy. But he did also enjoy reading his magazines and watching Goku and Vegeta train. Whis in particular he found interesting, as the way he moved was unlike anything he had seen before. But eventually, Champa appeared at Beerus Planet, seeking to obtain Earth for himself. Buu didn't like this and actually got really upset and nearly exploded at Champa before Goku and Vegeta jumped in and stopped him. But the god of destruction of Universe 6 didn't take this lightly, and he promised to destroy him. But to everyone's surprise, Beerus stood up for them. He said that if it's a fight he wants, then that's exactly what he would get. This conversation ended up in the tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7. And so, preparations began. Buu was just annoyed. He wanted to just go home to Mr. Satan and eat there, but he had no choice. Gohan couldn't attend due to a prior commitment, but he did start to train again, which Piccolo was proud of, and accepted to enter in his student's stead. With the team of Super Buu, Piccolo, Goku, Vegeta, and Monaka, the team heads towards the Super Dragon Ball. What took everyone by surprise was the written exam. Everyone was nervous, especially about Buu. He may have gotten a little smarter over the years, but he would certainly fail. Even Buu thought this as he tried to eat the pencil, but Goten and Trunks had a different idea. They were disappointed that they weren't asked to enter the tournament, so they came up with a plan. Buu exclaimed that he needed to use the bathroom, running off and peeing by the bleachers. That's when Goten and Trunks snuck up behind him, telling him their idea. He should absorb them as Gotenks. Not only would that power him up, but he would get smart enough to pass the test. Buu doubted it. They were just kids, like himself. Goten and Trunks looked at each other in confusion. Buu was several thousand years old, but whatever. Buu did admire just how tenacious they were. Trunks was a genius in his own right, and once they fused into Gotenks, they warned Buu that they better get to really show off their moves during the fight, otherwise he'll be mad. Buu finally accepts and absorbs Gotenks, who regretted doing this almost instantly. This was the second time he was absorbed. Just as Vados was about to disqualify him, Buu reappeared with a brand new vest and a cocky smirk. This was going to be too easy. Buu aced the exam and finished quick enough to draw doodles of Gotenks ghosts all over the page, which Vados gave a -3 points to. Either way, the tournament began. Goku and Vegeta rolled their eyes, knowing what Goten and Trunks did, but at the very least, it meant that they wanted to fight, and that was okay with them. Buu is the first to bat, making Mr. Satan comment on how it would have been amusing to see the old Fat Buu fight against this Botamo guy. Instantly, Buu rushed in, throwing any and every punch, only to realize that none of them had any effect on Botamo. No problem, he himself had similar properties, and he knew how to win. Buu unleashed a galactic donut around Botamo, which left him stuck in place, before Buu just knocked him to the ground and rolled him out of the arena. Champa got angry. That Buu guy was cheating. Next up was Frost, who was confident about his abilities, but Buu wasn't affected by anything First Form Frost threw his way, making Gotenks exclaim how he knows that he has more forms than just that. He's a little insulted that Frost would think that would be enough. Frost agrees and transforms into his final form, confident that he can win. Frost and the rest of the Universe 6 fighters were still a lot stronger than he expected. As the fight ramped up, Frost began to get a little desperate, as he landed only a few punches. Why wasn't Buu going down? Gotenks smirked. He wouldn't be taken out just like that, turning himself into a ball that swung around the entire stage, smacking Frost with such speed that he couldn't do anything. Ultimately, he was defeated and thrown out of the ring, but Frost wouldn't give up. He was freaking out. Why hadn't the poison worked? That's when the referee stopped him. Poison? He was trying to poison Buu? Buu had actually recognized something entering his body, but it just made him feel a little tipsy if anything. Champa nearly killed Frost, but Buu is the bigger issue. They need to stop him at Vegeta. Goku and Vegeta were also starting to get annoyed. At this rate, they wouldn't be able to participate. But the Vegeta fight actually proved to be a huge issue for Buu. He could pack a punch, but the incredible heat of the cage Champa placed around the arena began to melt Buu down. Little bits scattered off around the arena until Vegeta was surrounded by the puddles. It got to the point where Buu was nowhere to be found. He was just scattered around the arena. And so the cage was lowered, and the referee wondered if he should disqualify Vegeta for killing Buu, when suddenly all of the puddles around Vegeta began to reform at once into one large mass that smashed itself against Vegeta. The surprise knocked him back into the edge of the arena. Buu had rearranged himself incorrectly, as his hands were placed where his feet should be, but he once again declared himself the Grim Reaper of Justice, and that he'd defeat this stupid bucket of bolts, flipping off Vegeta. At that second, Vegeta lost balance, fell off the stage, and started crying. Buu was confused. He didn't expect Vegeta to be so sensitive. Chi-Chi and Bulma, on the other hand, were furious at Gotenks within Buu, since they knew it was really their doing. They yelled at him, and they warned of no video games and no sweet treats once the tournament was over. Next up was Cabba, who really didn't want to fight Buu, but he had to do what he had to do. That's when Vegeta stepped up and interrupted them. Could he switch places with Buu until he lost? He wanted to have a chance to battle this Saiyan, at the very least. Buu didn't really care either way, and Champa was actually excited to allow this. At least Cabba would stand a chance against Vegeta. This Buu guy had too many weird tricks. The fight goes on as in the original, with Vegeta showing off Super Saiyan and forcing Cabba into it, then bursting into Super Saiyan Blue to really show the potential of the Saiyans. Champa was disappointed when the fight didn't go his way. Looks like they'll be going home soon. The tournament hadn't even lasted 25 minutes, but Vegeta didn't stand a chance against Hit, which finally gave Universe 6 some much needed breathing room. Only to remember that there were still 4 more fighters, including Majin Buu. But he heard the sound of Goku's knuckles cracking. It wasn't over yet, and he had something under his sleeve. Hit sighed. He'd have to end this quickly. However, similarly to the original, and after using the Kaioken Super Saiyan Blue, Goku realized that they couldn't fight as they wanted. Plus, Hit was already hurt. Goku wouldn't be satisfied. And so, with nothing else to do, Goku jumps off the stage and says, "Good luck, Piccolo." Hit was confused, but also mesmerized by Goku. The Namekian stepped up, but Hit already knew that he had been victorious. All things considered, Piccolo does okay. After all, he got to analyze what Hit moved like, and gather hints from the battle against Goku. But his power was far outmatched. It was clear that he needed more training. Goku, Vegeta, Buu, even this Hit guy, they had all left him in the dust. If he didn't step it up a notch, he won't be able to ever compete again. Piccolo did land a few good strikes, especially as he fired multiple blasts around the entire arena, with Hit easily avoiding them, not realizing that they stayed in place as key mines surrounding him. When he time skipped, Hit nearly blew himself up, but avoided it just in time. Even so, Piccolo used the remaining mines as a Hellzone grenade. Hit managed to block and expand his aura, but it did hurt him. In that moment, he snapped forward and punched Piccolo in the chest, knocking him out. Champa couldn't help but cheer loudly. Maybe they did stand a chance after all, especially once Monaka stepped up to the ring. Hit really considered just jumping off the stage like Goku had, but he remembered that Universe 7 did have one last fighter, Super Buu, and he was really interested in how he would fight against him. At the start of the match, Hit punched Monaka across the face and sent him hurling into Champa. It was a one-hit KO, and they were sure that he was dead, at least at first. But Hit didn't put all of his power into that punch. He needed to save it for the real fight. As Kibito rushes to Monaka to heal him, Hit turns around to stare down at Super Buu. Champa is biting his nails in desperation. He had completely forgotten that Super Buu didn't lose moves, and that he could still come back as the final warrior. And so, with a twist of his body, and with Champa ready to jump off a building, Super Buu appeared on the stage. Even so, Hit was sure of himself. It was extremely difficult for Buu. Despite his strange techniques, Hit had been examining Buu's moves meticulously to the point of predicting what he would do. That was, until he time-skipped just as Buu left behind a kamikaze ghost, inadvertently exploding the bomb and hurting both himself and Buu. But that wouldn't work twice, even if it was a smart move. Buu tried to unleash the kamikaze ghost once again, only to have Goten and Trunks defuse within him and take an extremely powerful blow to the chest. Buu is knocked back and nearly falls off the edge of the arena. The shock from the power down nearly cost him the match. Champa stood up in excitement, when suddenly Super Buu spun his head all the way around and blew down a wave of air that pushed him back up to the arena. It was far closer than he expected. Without Gotenks' moves, he was certainly at a bit more of a disadvantage, but he didn't need Gotenks to win. Hit may have gotten a chance to analyze Super Buu's moves, but Super Buu did the same thing to him. Hit thought that Super Buu was just sleeping the entire time, which was now obviously not true, since he took inspiration from Piccolo's technique to pull off that kamikaze ghost move. Super Buu had one more idea, pulling his arm up to the sky and firing hundreds of blasts. In a different reality, this would have been used to kill everyone on Earth, but here, it was going to make sure that he won. But it wouldn't be easy, as Hit took a step and time skipped to push Super Buu out of the arena. He was at the very edge. This would be easy. But as he did that, he realized that Super Buu was no longer standing right where he used to be. He had disappeared from the spot where he fired the bullets, and was now behind Hit. As Hit turned around to strike, he realized that Super Buu's eyes were following him. Hit was surprised and staggered back as time resumed and the key bullets rained down upon the arena. No one knew exactly what happened, but Hit and Goku had their suspicions. Super Buu was trying to adapt the time skip into something he could use. After all, one of the many properties Buu has is the ability to copy techniques and moves easily, like with the instant transmission and the Kamehameha in the original story. Super Buu had analyzed Hit, and though he didn't quite understand the time skip, he did try his best to use it. It wasn't perfect, but it allowed him to read Hit and use an early version of his own time skip. The bullets finished, and from the cloud of smoke, it was revealed that Hit was no longer standing on the arena, as there was very little of it left. Hit had been ringed out. As the assassin stood up, he looked at Buu and nodded at him, respecting his abilities. Universe 7 had interesting fighters. If only he could have fought at 100%, he would have certainly won. Now Super Buu was all hungry, and he had considered eating Hit. He still didn't quite get the time skip, and if he absorbed him, he would have mastered him. But would that have counted as a disqualification? Still, Buu was happy to have gotten to fight such powerful opponents. Chi-Chi and Bulma yelled at Buu to release the boys, which Buu did. He didn't want them if they didn't have Gotenks anyways. Just then, however, the Omni King appeared in the middle of the ring, pleased with the results. Goku tried to make quick friends of him, but Buu didn't like the others telling him to vow. Instead, he smirked and took slow steps towards the Omni King, saying that he doesn't look so tough. But Zeno is in awe at Super Buu. He floats around him, analyzing him and poking him. He has so many cool moves and abilities. Buu didn't expect this response from Zeno, but he also liked being praised. When the idea for a multiversal tournament came up, Zeno made Goku and the rest promise to participate, especially Buu. He was quite interesting. Buu was way too hungry though, and refused to participate in anything until he ate, turning the stage into a giant candy bar, and began eating it. Zeno ate some too, though Buu only let him have a little piece. And finally, the wish to revive Universe 6's Earth was made. Zeno thought to himself that perhaps he could make Buu into his own personal chef, with the guards getting very nervous at the prospect. But that would be for a later date. And so the team returned to Earth, but an even greater darkness loomed beyond. Zamasu, a renegade Kaioshin, had taken interest in Goku's power after seeing it on GodTube. The Buu was interesting too. He had very weird moves, but he was still just a mortal. That was until in between rounds. The video captured the Universe 6 Kaioshin and Champa discussing just why Buu had God Ki. None of them understood why, though he did look familiar to the Kais. Zamasu stood up, eyes widened. So, he wasn't just a mortal, was he? What was this thing? This reaction caught Gowazu's attention, who turned to look at the screen. He also wasn't sure what this Buu person was, but he did remind him of something Shin said to him long ago, when Gowazu visited Universe 7 and found that none of his friends were around anymore, except for the youngest Kai. Apparently, a couple of thousands of years before, the rest of the Kais were completely wiped out by a being named Majin Buu, a strange monster created by Bibidi. But there's no way that being was working with Universe 7. Gowazu dismissed the thought and walked away, but Zamasu was left paralyzed. That Majin Buu guy wasn't even a mere mortal. He was a science experiment by some magician. In Zamasu's eyes, Buu didn't even count as life. Yet he paraded around with God Ki, perhaps even killed other gods. At that moment, Zamasu declared his manifesto, the destruction of all mortal life. And that's it for our story today. I had a lot of fun writing the Universe 6 tournament in particular, but we're gonna see Buu absorb some more interesting characters later down the line. Who do you think he's going to absorb next? Let me know in the comments down below. I read every single one of them, and I try to respond to as many as I can. As always, a huge thank you to the patrons of the channel, and if you want to watch more Dragon Ball content, be sure to check out the full story of What If Piccolo Got Orange Early, as well as my full analysis of the Bardock special.